Fine. So let me start the today's session. So as yesterday, we have written the first line of coding. So WebDriver is equal to new of Chrome driver, and we are able to launch the Chrome browser or Edge browser successfully. So next thing is with the help of a Selenium, we are doing the web page automation. Okay. So which means like we need some URL. So we need to provide the URL, which means what is the URL or what is the web page you are going to automate. So let's say in the day one of the class, so we have taken the Salesforce as an example, right? So let us try to automate this simple scenario. So let us try to enter the username, let us try to enter the password, and then let's try to click on the login button with the help of the Selenium. So the first step is we need to provide the appropriate URL. So how we are going to provide this URL in the sense in Selenium there are few methods. So the first method we call it as an get method. So what is the need of the get method in the sense? So to provide the URL. Okay. So whatever the URL which you are going to automate or whatever the web page you are going to automate, you should provide the corresponding URL in the get method. So generally there are two types of method. One we call it as an parameterized method and other we call it as an non-parameterized method. Okay, there are two types of method. One is called as an parameterized method and another we call it as an non-parameterized method. So let's say there is a method called as an apple. So sometimes what happen if it is a parameterized method. So this method will accept few input. So they may mention string A. So which means they have parameterized this method. Which means for sure whenever you are using this apple method, so you should pass a string input. So in case if they have parameterized with the data type called as an int be like that, so which means inside this apple method or instead of apple I can say it is of a cat method. So inside this cat method, so you should pass the integer input. Okay, so whenever something is parameterized, so we should pass the respective input. So either they can have a multiple parameterization as well. So they can have s- um, string A and int B, which means inside the apple method, so the user should inject two input. So one is string input and another is integer input. One and only if we pass this respective input, the apple method will work. So the reason is so the methods are parameterized. So whenever the methods are parameterized, so we should pass the argument. So argument is nothing but the input which we are injecting is called as an argument. So if there is a two parameterization, so then we should inject two arguments. Okay, so based upon the number of parameter, so we should inject the appropriate argument, which is nothing but we should inject the appropriate input. So let's say you are having we are having in this method we are having two parameterization. So which means we need to pass two arguments. So in this method, right, we are having only one parameterization. So which means we need to pass one argument, which is nothing but the input. So in similar way, this get method is a parameterized method. If something is parameterized, so we should amount, we should pass the input inside it. So non-parameterized method in the sense, if they mention something as a blank, okay, so for example they are giving this Aravind open and close bracket, so here they haven't parameterized anything. So whenever there is no parameterization, so we don't need to pass an input. So one and only if they have parameterized the method, so we should pass an argument. So if there is no parameterization, so the user should not pass a input. So now let me try to implement the same in our coding. So the first method which we are going to use here is like called as an like get method. So what is the need of the get method in the sense? So to pass the URL. So we are going to do the automation only with the help of the WebDriver. So I already told, so the variable holds the value. So which means the driver will have the knowledge of the like Chrome driver, and we are going to utilize those properties. So now what I'm going to do, so I'm just calling this variable called as a driver, and if I just click on dot, so whatever the methods which are available, so it will pre-populating all the methods. So generally, so the class contains method, so which means like we are utilizing the Chrome driver class. So obviously like class contain methods, and those knowledge is injected to the WebDriver, and we are calling the variable called as a driver. So when I type the variable name driver and if I click dot, so whatever the methods which are available, so all the methods will be get displayed. So in which like we are going to use the first method called as an get method. So here you could see there is a first method called as an find element. So they have mentioned something, which means find element is a parameterized method. So next is like get. So even they have mentioned something called as a string URL. It is a parameterized method. So the switch to manage, get title, close. So these are like non-parameterized method. So here we are going to use the parameterized method called as an get. So as the get method is parameterized, okay. So what they have parameters? They have parameters as the string, and they have given the variable name as an URL. So when something is parameterized, we should pass the argument. Argument is nothing but we should insert the input. And what is the data type of what is the data type they have mentioned in the sense? So they have mentioned as a string. So whenever it is a string in the day one of the class, like I have told, if it is of a string, we should mention in a double quotes, which means like we should pass the string input inside the double quotation as per Java rule. So now inside we have use the get method, but we are getting an error in a get method, and it is providing the suggestion to us like stating that like it is a parameterized method, so you should pass a string input. On the other hand, if I hover the mouse over it, okay, so we will get this we will be getting the suggestion box. And if you have read the suggestion box, it states that expected one argument but found zero, because like we haven't passed any of the input, right? So now you could see this is a get method, and they have parameterized this uh, string, and as it is parameterized, so we are going to pass the URL. Okay, so I'm passing the URL in the double quotes because like it will accept the string input. The string should be provided inside the double quotes. So let me say I'm going to type www.google.com. So now let me try to run this program. So like whenever I run this program, it should open the Chrome, followed by it should open the URL called as an google.com. So let's see how the execution occur. So it is just building the program, and post completion of the build, so it will invoke the browser, and post invocation like it will pass the corresponding URL, which means like it will open the corresponding URL. So let's see like what it is happening. Yes, the browser is invoked, but we are the it is not navigating to the like Chrome. So let's see what is an issue. So in a console, okay, so we are getting many errors. So whenever there is a error in console, so we should read the error carefully. So now the first thing is like always scroll to the okay bottom line of the console. because like we need to know in which line the error has been occurred. So this is the last line which is available in the console. Here they have mentioned as at automation basic. So what is mean by automation basic? In the sense the package which we have created, and they have mentioned basic automation, which means like it is the error is occurring inside the class called as an basic automation, and in which they have state it is a main. So main means so the error is occurring in the main method, and they have mentioned basic automation dot java dot 13, which means the error is occurring on the 13th line. So what we have mentioned in the 13th line, in the sense we have mentioned like driver dot get, so we are passing the corresponding URL. If you just click on the link available, so if you click on this line number 13, so it will navigate so where it is getting an error. So we are getting an error in a get method, and post that like we need to understand what is the error. So to understand the error, so just to scroll to the top of the console, so you could see some line called as an exception in thread. Okay, so always like try to search this keyword called as an exception in thread. So only in this line the appropriate error message will be commented up. So now let's see what is the error message they have. The sorry. So let's see like what is the error message which is pre-populating in the console. So this is the error message. So let me copy this error message and try to read the error message. It says arg.openqa.selenium.invalid argument exception, and it states invalid argument. So just I told like argument is nothing but the input which we are injecting is called as an argument. So it clearly says so whatever the input we are passing inside the get method is wrong. So, like, why it's telling it is a wrong in the sense? So, generally, as per working principle, so yesterday I have explained, right, like how the coding execute in the sense the code will communicate to the WebDriver, and the WebDriver will communicate with the corresponding web browser, and how the communication established in the sense with the help of the protocol called as an HTTP. So whenever like we are providing the URL, so we should provide the protocol. So if the protocol is not provided, then obviously the communication won't establish, and it will throw the error in the console. And these we technically called as a Selenium architecture or WebDriver architecture. Okay, so as per architecture, like we should provide the protocol. So now what I'm doing, like instead of manually injecting the URL, I'm just copying the URL and I'm trying to provide the URL with the protocol called as an HTTPS, and then like I'm just right clicking on it and I'm just running this basic program once again. So now the now the Chrome driver will invoke the Chrome browser, followed by it should navigate to the salesforce.com. So how the navigation occurs in the sense, because the protocol is provided as per WebDriver architecture. So the code will communicate to the WebDriver, and WebDriver will communicate to the web browser only with the help of the protocol called as an HTTPS. So we need to provide the appropriate protocol. So now you could see like it has invoked the browser, followed by it has navigated to the login.salesforce.com. Okay, so we have successfully navigated to the respective web page.